Hi, everybody. So good to be here. I'm, as Daniela told you, I'm Tom Divon from the Department of Communication and Journalism at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. I proudly serve as a key regional leader for the Middle East within the TikTok Cultures Research Network, collaborating with fellow members to expand the network's geographical reach. And I'm delighted to serve as the moderator for our second session, which focuses on the visibility and invisibility of Latin American cultures and diasporas. I'll just briefly remind you that this roundtable will start with 5 brief minutes introductions from each panelist, allowing them to share insights about their TikTok profiles and experiences. Then we will engage in a 30 minutes moderated discussion, followed by a 10 minutes Q&A session where the audience can pose questions in our chat. And I also like to emphasize that this event is being recorded and will be accessible on the TikTok Cultures Research Network page. If you're unable to stay for the entire duration or wish to revisit specific segments of interest, you'll find them there. And please note that this roundtable will be conducted entirely in English and will be simultaneously translated into Spanish by our amazing and attentive interpreters. So who do we have here today? First, we have Alexandria Arrieta, a PhD candidate at the USC Annenberg. Alexandria is connecting today from Los Angeles, California. Her TikTok research explores Latino TikTok's musical influence and its effect on creativity labor. And as a big fan of sound on TikTok, I cannot wait to hear more about it. We have Julian Raca, TikToker coming to us from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Julian is a marketing student with more than 300,000 followers on TikTok. And we can't wait to hear more about this journey. We have Hernan Laflace coming to us from Argentina. Hernan is the CEO of Influencer Marketing Agency in Buenos Aires. His agency provides cutting-edge digital media consulting with the country's largest influencer network. Last, we have John Clinton, a highly successful Peruvian TikToker currently residing in the US. John offers valuable insights from Latin American immigrants, using his videos to provide a window into the complexities of life in the diaspora and offer a deeper understanding of this experience. So I'd like to kick off our session with 20 minutes introductions from each of our esteemed panelists. As I mentioned, each of you has prepared 5 minutes to share your unique perspectives on TikTok and Latin America. So let's just delve right in, and let's start with you, Alexandria.
Hi, I'm really excited to be here today with this awesome panel. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides.
Great, please do that.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about my research about Latino TikTok. My project is called Viral Latinidades, the Sonic Spacemaking and Identity Practices of Latino TikTok. My focus is on Latino TikTok in the US as a significant space of Latino communal formation, driven by multimodal meme creation, which is often bilingual and often transnational. My method is digital ethnography, so that involves regular online immersion periods, collection of video examples. I've relied on both algorithmic recommendations from the For You page, as well as regular exploration of hashtags and sounds associated with Latino TikTok. So that's like Latino, Hispanic, Latinx, as well as more specific country-related hashtags. I'm really interested in the broad configurations and imaginations concerning Latinidades and the ways they go viral on the platform, specifically focused on audio memes. So what I have found is that syncing video with viral sounds is increasingly important for establishing coalitions, exploring identity, and in some cases, creating boundaries for exclusion around Latinidad and what it means to be Latino. I'm drawing from prior work about music as a spatial practice, so the ways in which music is heard and created within communities and how it helps to make spaces, as well as prior work from Latinx media scholars like Dolores Inés Casillas' work on Spanish language public radio as an alternative affective forum, as well as Jose Aguiano's work about intentional listening by Latino college students to create sonic counterspaces in the midst of discrimination and other challenges on their campuses in the US. So let's go very quickly into some examples so you can see what I'm talking about. There are a lot of memes within Latino TikTok that are simply about expressing and explaining what it means to be Latino. So in this example, they're using the sound Resaca by the Argentine cumbia group Supermerc 2. It's a funny version of the song because it's just somebody playing it on the keyboard. And they're using it to describe things like behaviors by their Hispanic parents, certain funny phrases in Spanish, finding an elotero in the mountains. So let's just look at one. So that one says Hispanic parents always think they got ripped off. These are often comedic and they're often exploratory around identity using sound.
Alexandria, I'm just mentioning that we don't have the sound shared if you intended to have the video with the sound, so we had it without. So if you want to
got it. One second.
Yeah, sure. So just reshare it with the sound and then we can all enjoy the
perfect.
Yeah. Great.
I don't have share sound enabled in mine for some reason.
Oh. Just a second. Let me. Yeah, now
okay,
you're
great.
Yeah, great.
Perfect. I still don't have it, but it's okay. For the sake of time, I can keep going.
Hi, Alexandra. It's a box that you have to tick when you share your screen.
Yes, I
right
see
next
it.
to.
I see it, but it doesn't have it enabled for me to select it.
Okay, Daniela, do you want to try to make Alexandra a host? Maybe it will help, or should we just move on? Okay, let's try. Okay, so let's. You can imagine the sound, yeah.
You can imagine
it. It is another experience for us, yeah.
Okay, so let me continue. And then there are a lot of song challenges to evaluate Latino identity and belonging, where creators need to be able to recognize certain songs from different Latin music genres in order to demonstrate their belonging within this Latino identity. So here's an example. Some of the songs that are included are Daddy Yankee, Romeo Santos. They're big hits. And it's a really interesting way of operationalizing and gamifying music for the purpose of quantifying how much you belong within this particular identity. And there are more specific country-related ones as well, where it's like, how Mexican are you? Banda challenge. How Latino are you? Caribbean edition as well. Lastly, there are lip sync challenges to evaluate Spanish fluency. It's a really interesting thing on Latino TikTok. There have been these songs that creators have lip synced to in order to demonstrate their language proficiency and how good they are at Spanish. In this instance, a creator said to lip sync this and let people guess if you're a no sabo kid. In the US, no sabo kid is a term that has been used to describe Latinos who can't speak Spanish. And so in lip syncing, they're demonstrating their Spanish proficiency, and other creators come into the comments and begin to evaluate them, looking carefully at their lips, the way their lips move and their tongues move. And this has to do with ratiolinguistic ideologies and the learning of Latinidad. The way that Latinidad has come to look like a language and sound like a race. Language and race have been conflated, and these challenges can reinforce those ideologies. And so that's just a taste of my work in this broader area of Latino TikTok. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to connect with you on Twitter and Instagram. I also do work in the music industry, so happy to connect about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alessandria. I think like you enabled us a whole new experience, as TikTok is so well connected to sound, and from this small minor technical problem, we actually could experience now TikTok without sound. So it's a whole different universe. So I could imagine the sound. It was really interesting experience. I hope the audience could as well. So thank you for that. And next we will move to Julian.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with my co-members of this panel and other TikTokers. I am Julian Raca. I am an Argentinian TikToker. I began during the pandemic, the quarantine, as a TikToker, and I was in the countryside of Argentina alone with my dad during the pandemic. And I realized that there was this thing called TikTok, and I was able to interact through there. I began using humor and pick up phrases. And since we are all locked within in our houses and apartments, being in the countryside was really special, and the landscape called my viewers' attentions. I called people's attention by being outside with a marvelous landscape behind me. So I went from humor to fashion and pivoting, which is having and lip syncing too, like playing sounds and really singing along and making faces. And this went very well for me. And from one day to one day, we got together, all the Argentinian influencers who looked good and who were cool, and we got together in a house and we began creating lip syncing content. So we would play a song, a part of a song, and each person would sing a part. And as someone was singing, the others were behind making faces. So we got so many likes and so many views and shares because we were all the most famous TikTokers in Argentina. This really exploded, and we began touring clubs and discos, and and I had never thought I would be doing that, and we to really go to clubs, of course, at earlier times because we were younger and our audience were kids from 12 to 19, so we would go to these clubs at during the matinees, and we were there for 2 hours going around to different places and perform, and really for people to know us. And it was a great experience, was really fantastic. I loved it, and that was the beginning of my career.
Great, thank you so much, Julian. That was really interesting to hear how from those interesting and random moments you actually rised into a whole career. So we're gonna have some more specific questions about that, but thank you for this great teaser. And moving on to Hernan.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I am paying close attention to what everyone is exposing. It's been very fun and entertaining so far. I'm Renan Lafanse. I am the CEO of the influencer agency in Argentina. Well, I began in the digital world. I had never thought about being online, but one day a group of friends said, well, why don't we start a web page and we start really pushing content in the virtual world? So we began with a Justin Bieber theme web page that then became a fandom, and it grew so much throughout Latin America and the world that we began hosting meetings in the Obelisco monument in Buenos Aires. So we began creating communities and making friends, and many influencers were born in these meetings. And then with other friends and partners, we created our agency, which provide different services: content creation, promotion, events, and also influencers services, which is what the brands want the most. This is our top service. I feel that brands, they want influencers who do not generate conflict. Someone mentioned that before in the first panel, but we have to really define what conflict is, because I heard from the activists and the girls who stand up for their rights, and I think this is very cool and very adequate. However, there are brands who don't want to support that, and then there we have a conflict between influencers and brands. And we, as an agency, we have to really mediate and make brands understand that this content is not negative, but it's only a different type of content that also serves society in a certain way. And this is our task also as an influencer agency, to really communicate between brands and influencers and try to avoid conflict. And once again, thank you for the invitation, to Daniela for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you, Hernan. That's very interesting. You already got me thinking about how crisis and conflict can be an opportunity, and how it can be kind of like leverage into new collaborations, or rephrasing of certain issues. So as the mediator, as the mediator between influencers and brands, that's very interesting how you manage these tensions. So we're going to hear more about that. Thank you very much. And now we have John. You're up.
Hello, everyone. Please let me share my screen for my presentation. Can you see it? Okay.
Can you just share a full screen? Just press on the small icon there. Yeah, exactly. Great. Now we can see.
Very well. Whenever we are afraid of something, we get stuck. But I am not doing that. I'm John Clinton, and I always say that my videos are your eyes to get to know the United States and the world. What should we do? What we like or what is convenient? In Peru, I studied civil engineering. I finished college. I found a job like everyone else, with a salary that did not fulfill my expectations. After studying 5 years, I felt that I had lost time, or wasted my time. And also, studying something that you're not passionate about is not satisfactory. I know that this is controversial, but I'm here to really tell you that studying sometimes is not does not mean success. In 2022, I moved to the United States, and after living there for 6 months, I put myself in the shoes of those that lived in Latin America, like myself, a person who wanted to migrate to the United States but couldn't find information about it, because the information we find on social media is very broad but also very scarce, because there are a lot of people talking about migrating to the US, but they don't tell you the truth and the details of what this implies. So in that regard, and really wanting to communicate what people should know and wanted to know, I opened a TikTok account to tell people about the culture in the United States, the food, the people, which are very different, and how we as Latin Americans can adapt to this country. And my experience in social media, well, I haven't been here for a long time, but I have been here for a while. I have already reached 80,000 followers with millions of views, and I understand that the power of social media is very big. I have had the opportunity of collaborating with brands like Shein, a clothing store, and also a Guatemalan energy drink here present in the United States, and also with a Holland mics and cameras brand. And I got a lot of comments from followers all around the world, which have been very inspiring, and it's really what has motivated me to go on. And I saw that my videos not only informed my audience in Latin America, but also I was now collaborating with other brands and monetizing my content and really growing. And I saw that this was taking a different shape. The importance of being a content creator. Where I say that I want to be well known, but not by trending and not with short videos, but really serving society, really making a collaboration by informing, educating people, and inspiring people. Like Albert Einstein said sometimes, don't try to be successful, but to really bring value to society. Because whatever you do, the consequences of what you do, be it the money or monetization, will only be the consequence of your actions. And also working on social media is a project for myself of my own, and is a way of enjoying my free time, to really go out with your family, or really to just go out and choose to work. Many young people are focused on studying a discipline, a course, but they don't really think about if what they're studying is what they really want for their lives. And that's how my life made a 180 turn, because being an engineer in a country and wanting to make videos, I was blocked because I was afraid of what people would say. People would say, I don't know, he's an engineer, he knows math, but what is he doing now? Making videos? So many in Latin America, we often hear these negative comments, and we get afraid, and we choke, or we get blocked. Therefore, I had to overcome that fear and really began collaborating for society. Also, I participated in the TikTok creativity program, where we get paid for monetizing our videos. I had an account with 80,000 followers. I had sent an application to this program, but I didn't get an answer for 2 or 3 months, until one day a fellow content creator of mine said, why don't you check your channel? Maybe it's tuned to the Latin American region, because this program is only available for the United States. friends in Brazil, but not the rest of Latin America, which is quite confusing because it says it's a beta program because it's still a pilot program and they haven't expanded to Latin America. Even though there are many TikTokers in Latin America with a lot of added value, I thought, why doesn't TikTok give them the opportunity to monetize, and why only France, the US, or Brazil? So back to my monetization problem, I didn't get any answer from TikTok until I saw that my account was set up for Latin America. So my only option was to create a new account and start from scratch. It was a very tough decision. I had a talk to other content creators who are way ahead of me, and I decided to start again with more professional videos, really dedicating myself to that. And now we have 11,000 followers, and I have already applied again for the beta creativity program monetization. So, like I said, I had to start from scratch. Finally, visibility in cultures and diasporas and how this has been enhanced through TikTok. With my videos, I'm trying to connect to my people, to my audience in Central and South America. I am living far from my country, far away from my country, but I am able to connect with them, providing insights and testimonies. And really, this is a way of connecting. I have been able to get closer to my audience, and they can get closer to me despite being miles apart. Also, Latin Americans are true fighters, and we're constantly showcasing our culture. Where I live here in North Dakota, 4 hours from Canada, there are no Peruvian restaurants. However, every Sunday we get together, all Peruvians, where we cook Peruvian food and we invite other Latin Americans and also US citizens to taste our food in our cuisine. And migration is very important for the United States because a lot of successful people come from abroad. And once again, let me restate my motto, which is let my videos be your eyes to the United States. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, John. That was so much like in the sense of understanding your role and how you actually emerge as an ambassador at some point for many immigrants to understand the options to living in the US. So, and obviously your challenges with monetization and being acknowledged by TikTok as a content creator. We're gonna hear more about it. That's incredibly interesting, and thank you for sharing that with us. So thank you all of you for allowing us this glimpse into your world. And I would like now to kick off our session of moderated discussion with those with our discussion about the incredible insights that you can share with us. And what we're gonna do is that I'm gonna start with a question to John and Alexandria, but it's also for everyone else if you want to share some more insights. So John, I would be interesting to know, as a TikTok creator focused on immigrants' experience, how do you navigate the fine line between sharing personal stories and protecting your privacy and those of the people you feature in your content? And then, so that's like a question that I'll be very curious to know more, because I feel like TikTok can be a very tricky environment for kind of like this visibility that can cause some harm to people, to creators, to people that creators are showing in their videos, right? And then maybe Alexandria, you can join in with as you exploring the Latino creators in the US, if you ever witness any private strategies or concerns, maybe even using sound as a way to communicate those issues of Latino creators in the US. Maybe sound as a playful practice becomes a very serious tool for communicating those issues. So yeah, I'll be happy to hear some more about that. John, do you want to yeah.
In my case, when making TikTok content, not so much on the personal aspects, but I do make videos, but not highlighting all those aspects. I'll be talking about customs, and if I really get testimonials, actually, it'll be to other people that are already successful Latin people, or how they're adapting to this new culture, and not so much personal. On some occasion I do, but not often. So our privacy as creators needs a limit, a cutoff. We need to inspire, teach, and show, but yes, there needs to be a cap.
And then in regards to your question about maybe sound being used for more serious issues as well as comedic exploration and play, one thing that I have noticed that has been really powerful is that narratives and posts about migrant experiences of Latin Americans in the US have often coalesced around certain songs and certain sounds. So like a really big one that has been popular over the past couple years is Hasta la Raíz. Oh, I'm sorry. Hasta la Raíz by Natalia Lafourcade, who is a really popular Mexican artist. And that's been used to be able to express migrant narratives for years. Within this past year in May or maybe June, when Ron DeSantis signed in this law in Florida that made it illegal to transport undocumented workers within Florida, a lot of TikTokers within Latino TikTok in the US gathered around this song called Me Voy by Julieta Venegas in order to post videos about themselves and their families leaving Florida because they no longer felt safe there. And so it's really powerful when serious experiences and narratives get to gather around particular songs, because it becomes a powerful archive where people can gather and express their concerns and also increase visibility and awareness around specific issues for Latin Americans that they're facing in the US.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a very interesting use of, if you want to amplify the visibility of serious issues, you need to actually take advantage of the platform's different features and the platform's different technical features that can amplify your visibility. And that actually leads me to another question about and it goes to everyone, also our creators. Please feel free to share, as you have a different experience of the algorithm. But to what extent do TikTok's algorithm influence the types of content that gain visibility? And how can creators use those algorithms to amplify important messages about Latin American immigrants' experiences in the United States and within the territories of Latin America? So that's more about like the experience of creators with algorithms. So maybe Julian wants to go first, and then John maybe can weigh in as well.
Well, the algorithm in Argentina, well, in Argentina, being an influencer here in Argentina, we're based on our own algorithms, really. It's mostly national here because brands here, since TikTok isn't monetized here, as John had mentioned, we we have to seek out more locally. So these Argentinian brands aren't interested in having a Brazilian audience or for the US because that doesn't lead to a profit margin. So we need to we rely on the local audience due to the metrics of the followers. We're pretty closed off in that sense. That's we have to base ourselves in our content. So we like controversial material that gets a lot of views. Things that are in vogue. Now things that again not monetized here, so if it was monetized, we could move on to other areas, other audiences, US audiences, cater to them as well. But again, we're a bit closed off as of now.
It's very interesting. Very interesting for me, it's very intriguing to understand that your perception as a creator about the algorithm. You say that like you have a specific algorithm for Argentina, so it's kind of a specific perception of how Argentinian creators should act in order to get visibility and virality, and also the challenges with monetization, with the option to make profit from your content. That's really intriguing. Thank you for sharing that. And John, would you like to add something about those, about your relation with the algorithm and the exposure that you might have or you might don't have?
Yes, in this case, I'd like to point out that well, TikTok is really US centric, since here we have all the monetization options. In my case, my audience is Latin American, so my schedule is is 3 times a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, between 7 to 8 at night. And I've seen that within that time frame, there's been a lot of traction, a lot of visibility during that stretch, because most of the countries in that region at that time, they're at home, the after work, they can actually have time to stop and look at the videos. But if you were to publish on Sunday, for example, you won't get the same amount of traction, not the same amount of views that you'd have gotten on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, despite the fact that people rest on Sundays usually. But usually families use this for their own time, for family time. They go out shopping and so forth, not as glued to the phone. So we make the most of those time slots, so to speak, for content, for uploading content, for getting views.
Great, thank you for that. That's more insightful information about how creators navigate their understanding of when they might gain more visibility. And like we all know, social media is about when is the right time to post, and the fact that you have to calculate this kind of like to take into consideration your timing and when is the right time, but also telling us about a very oppressed system for Latin American creators, in the sense of getting visibility and monetizing your content, which seems quite impossible. So that's another thing to consider when you're creating and already making so much effort in creating content. So that's interesting. We have a question from Hernan that I also have a question for you, Hernan, but let's first hear your question. Maybe it relates to our discussion. So please go ahead.
I wanted to add that besides the fact that influencers can't monetize, the brands can't Well, if a brand wants a greater outreach, they can advertise on TikTok. We work with there's ads. Well, for TikTok, we've got it for Google, YouTube, but there's no advertising on TikTok.
So yeah, so if you can actually extend on that, because my question for you, Hernan, is from this marketing perspective. I was going to ask you about those unique challenges and opportunities that Latin American influencer might have, and how this landscape actually, how does this landscape look like? I mean, if you can help us understand the landscape of Latin American creators and their opportunities to monetize, and we understand now that they don't really have, what do they do to actually make profit?
What influencers usually do is maybe not fully, but part of the community they have on TikTok, they carry them to Instagram. That way, they're able to monetize their content. And influencers, even though we seek out to and reach them to make campaigns for brands, influencers also get in touch with agencies. They talk about their profiles, their metrics, and based on that, we try to design a campaign for them. Maybe they are TikTokers, they have thousands of followers both on Instagram and TikTok, and if a brand wants a campaign on Instagram, we can do that, provided they have the metrics that the brands are looking for. We have a database with a bunch of TikTokers, and we also check their Instagram metrics, and we take that into account.
So it seems like it's really like, in order to be a successful Latin American creator, it seems like you need to have your legacy already established on Instagram or any other platform, and then you might get a chance in this industry. It seems like very complicated to actually strive and be successful. And spinning back the discussion to you, Julian, as a very successful TikTok creator. I'm wondering, you are based in Argentina, and you had to be a successful creator, right? You had to prove yourself every time from the beginning, you know, in order to have this consist success in each of your videos. How much did you actually have to follow or mimic the global language of content creators, like to do it like in the rest of the world? How much did you have to kind of like sell your culture for the global world in order to be successful? Or did you find actually your own specific local culture to be successful in your creations?
Well, like I told you, we focus mainly on the local audience. And like you said, to keep being successful, we need to get together and collaborate with other influencers and newcomers and help them too to get followers. And that in turn helps us. So we support each other. But that happens mainly in Argentina. We want to focus on our environment to really make it in Argentina. And once we do that and get to a certain financial position, we can then travel to the United States and create TikTok contents with people from other countries. And that's the only way to really break through the content and the algorithms. And when we create this content, more people get to know us, and a Mexican influencer might say, well, I want to collaborate with you too. And then we go and get together. We let's go Mexico. And that's the way we really can expand our contact, because like I said, the TikTok algorithm is very weird. And if I make content that I know Argentinians won't enjoy, I will fail. So basically that's the way that we TikTokers and influencers can expand our success going abroad, because content in other countries is very different, we love controversy and lip syncing, and other countries are more into dancing and blogging and vlogging, and there are differences.
That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. It's also, you know, this communal effort to help each other as Latin American creators, and like you rely on each other. You build a community that will actually help you to be successful in a place where you're supposed to have competition, right? Because creators are individual people that would like to be successful more than others. But then you're telling me that in order to be successful, you actually need to rely on your creator friends, which is quite amazing. And this is your communal fight in this TikTok algorithm, which is interesting. And it also got me thinking about the Jewish creators that I am researching in my research, and they are scattered in different places in the world. So they live as Jewish people in diaspora, and they also rely on each other to allow each other's visibilities and to amplify their work. And also it got me thinking, Alexandria, if you have any insights about that as a person that research TikTok and research creators, if you can extend more about what Julian just told us about this communal effort. How do you see that in your work, and what can you maybe elaborate a bit more about?
One thing I can say is that I've interviewed a lot of creators this year about their work within Latino TikTok, and then music related creators more broadly. And what I have found is that within Latino TikTok, they're friends with each other. They're drawing from many of the same practices and memes where they're like, oh, that person started doing that, so I started doing this particular meme as well. And there's a lot of audience and user feedback that helps to continually give them new ideas, continually help them reach new levels of visibility as well. I think I've been looking at the question in the chat talking about Latinos more generally, and how there could be a homogenizing thing going on. And that's something
Thank you.
Yeah, that's something that I'm always thinking through in my work, because it's like when you think about Latino TikTok and trying to make it one space, are you also collapsing very heterogeneous ideas? And within the US, it's interesting because we do both. So we have like these sub networks like Mexican TikTok, Puerto Rican TikTok, and then we also have people talking about Latino TikTok simultaneously. And so what we find is a lot of collaboration across particular national backgrounds. And that's something that's common in the US. There's a researcher named Francis Aparicio who has written about how Latinos in the US tend to transculturate one another amongst different ethnic and national backgrounds. And so on one hand, it's like, wait, are we flattening this into one very homogenous pan-ethnic identity? And sometimes that's the case in the way that Latinidad is marketed and commodified. but in other times it's more rich and more collaborative and more nuanced in the way that we interact with one another and help each other out.
That's so interesting. You know, there is many already scholars looking at the way that specific communities on TikTok are taking advantage of their own stereotypes in order to amplify their visibility. So Professor Kistal Abidin also is looking on those specific ways of how users are actually amplifying visibility by using their own group stereotypes. So it's really interesting, your question about whether if it creates this flattened understanding of this Latin American culture. And it got me thinking about, like, you know, we have those questions on the one side, and then we have like work like John is doing, which is showing the real life of immigrants, and like the issues that they might feel and go through coming to the US. And that's very much opening a different window to the world of Latin America and to the world of people migrating from their own territories to different places. And I wonder, John, if you can elaborate more about that, about you becoming some kind of ambassador to many people about, like, look, I will show you what will happen when you come to the US. And then when sometimes reality meets those people, and they see one thing on your video, but they get the other, or they face struggles, they address you, and you might need to help them. I don't know how you navigate those challenges, if you have any to share with us.
Well, my mostly viewed videos are basically on how to establish or notice the differences between life here and in Latin American countries, using, for instance, the terms that we see here and what we say in Latin America, or the differences in terms of weather and the best time to come to the US. For instance, it's important to say that the best time to come to the United States is summer, is during summertime, because during winter, not so much about tourism, but in terms of work, in winter, it's harder to get a job because all the activity goes down, and here, most states face a lot of snowfall. And those that don't know about that, when they see and they watch my video, they can prepare better to migrate, know what is the best time to go, what they should carry with them, and the main things that they should keep in mind. And also, people ask me if speaking English is so important. And even though there are many Spanish speakers here, speaking English can get you a lot of opportunities. I'm not very fluent in English, but I've noticed that if I were a fluent English speaker, I would have had more opportunities, not only in terms of work, but also in making friends, because of course an acquaintance can get you to a work later on. So that's the type of question that I use to engage with my audience when they want to know what life is like here, how much we pay for rent, what they should do in the first days after they arrive, and so forth.
Thank you. That's very interesting to actually understand those
Gracias,
nuances.
ha sido bien iluminador entender esas matices.
Your specific experience and your specific knowledge that you're sharing with so many people that are actually depending on your knowledge and relying on you to educate them. And it's also very intriguing to think about how TikTok, our platforms, social media platforms, became a place that can save life and help people, curve different lives in different territories, and it's all in this digital space, you know, that thinking about like one day if we won't have TikTok, like where will all this knowledge go, and what people will do if they rely on John Clinton to be the ambassador of helping immigrants to come to the US, and all the knowledge you have is there. So it's interesting to think about how we are platform dependent in that sense. And that's very interesting. I also want to remind you, our participants, that we are also attendees, that you can feel free to post some more questions in our chat. And we had a very interesting question by Jennifer that Alexandria addressed about this understanding of the white gaze, which was very interesting, this discourse about stereotypes, and are we actually flattening the Latin American culture here? So that was a very interesting question. Thank you, Jennifer. And I'm very curious to know, Hernan, if you can share some more insights as the person that actually create the business behind the scene, right? Like kind of like helping creators to become what they really want to be, successful on TikTok. And it seems that you need to navigate so much complexity in this system of exposure on TikTok, which seems to be, as you told us, pretty much impossible if you are not already well-known creator on other platforms. So maybe you can try to describe for us what will be the ideal TikTok influencer for you to work with. What kind of like character, what is the characteristics of this influencer? Yeah, if you can share more insights about that, that would be very interesting.
I believe that the ideal influencer, although it's there, as you mentioned, the complexity, but as an agency, it's good for them to tick several boxes. To talk about, yes, what's trending and so forth, but to take into account several topics: fashion, music. Granted, there's few that are so eclectic, because some will just stick to music or fashion or blogs and so forth. Now, brands, when they look out for influencers, when they're on the lookout for them, they look for them based on the product. For example, we got a request from an airport. They were looking for influencers to talk about the environment. So we have to base ourselves in what the brand asks us to do. Well, we try to include a profile, which would be the best ones we believe, that incorporate several topics. And then, granted, there's a lot of social networks, what TikTok's got, which is good. After, you can get things viral pretty quickly in TikTok, much faster than you could in Instagram, for example. That's one of the perks of TikTok. It can get a person who isn't well known, they can become a celebrity overnight. And that's because of TikTok's algorithm. And yes, it has shortcomings, but it also has its advantages. And that would be be a testament to the platform's success.
Thank you. Okay, wow, that was really valuable. I guess that's a lot of insights that we can learn, you know, us as researchers of creators, but also creators themselves can gain a lot of knowledge from your from this information you're sharing with us, because you know, creators are always hungry for success, but in different environments where this success is so contested and like so like tied up with so much other complexities of, you know, of the infrastructure of the platform. So understanding as a creator how you can overcome that, or maybe change a bit your activity in order to be more like more fit for becoming an influencer that is being represented by a company like yours, that's very insightful, and we can learn a lot from that. Great. And I think we can wrap up our discussion. That was we had incredibly insightful statements and thoughts that you've shared with us. I personally gained valuable insights, and I hope that our crowd as well. We've learned a lot about the experiences of Latin American content creators across various geographic and cultural contexts. So thank you so much for taking the time and sharing with us, Alexandria, Hernan, John, and Julian. Thank you so much. We know that we cannot take for granted your time, and thank you for allowing us more of that. And it was just fascinating to delving deeper into those topics. So thank you so much. And I'll now hand it back to my friend and colleague, Daniela, for her closing remarks for the entire event.
To wrap up, I'd like to thank on the part of the organizing committee, made up by Daniela, Tom from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and Natalia Orrego from the Catholic University of Chile. Now, I'd like to thank the industry, which is our sponsors, which have been backing us, especially the TikTok Research Network. Now, I'd like to thank the TikTok research team, Dr. Jin Lee, Kristen, for their support in holding this event. Thank you, Macarena and Sari Taylor, for their support. Thank you to our interpreters, Edward and Pedro Veloso, who has made it possible to expand our outreach to Spanish-speaking and English-speaking communities. Thank you for the bridge you've created and for expanding the horizons. I hope you've enjoyed this event. I invite you to click on the link we've included in the chat, our research network. Now, we hold events such as these. You can become members every trimester. Now, the recordings of the events will be available on the website of TikTok Culture Research Network in a few weeks, and we'll be announcing that on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for being with us, and I hope this is the beginning of a much more broad dialogue. We'll be seeing you next time. Thank you all. Thank you all for tuning in. So we'll be sending an email out, a formal email, but this has been quite interesting, and I hope this is something we can do again. It would be great if we could have a group get a group photo.